is called the pyloric valve. And it's basically the same thing. Have you heard of H. pylori, which is a Helicobacter disease problem? That's a horrible little bacteria, and he comes out of the small intestine and actually burrows into the lining of your stomach. And now, probiotics are very important. Keep in mind two things, food enzymes and probiotics, because when I go back and go through all this, you're going to follow me, and that will be important also. Now, coming down, we have our pancreas, and I don't see it on this chart at all, but here's your gallbladder. Okay, that's the liver wings. No, they don't have it on this either. But anyway, behind all this is your liver, and you have a balloon. It looks like a balloon shape hanging. If you follow the picture, you can see that gallbladder is like a little balloon thing, and that'll squeeze at a certain time, put bile into the stomach. Coming down, gosh, it's easier for me to follow my own drawing. The duodenum comes down, and that's the first part of the small intestine. And that does not have a lot of acid in it. As that comes down, it goes into the small intestine. Now, the intestine has three parts, the small intestine that I'm talking about. You have the first part. First part is the duodenum, and it's about 8 inches. And it's a funny shape. It's shaped like this. It's kind of like a horseshoe shape. And some of the digestion takes place in there also. Now, when it gets down into the second part of the small intestine, which is your duodenum, and then you have your third part, which is the ileum. Now, the duodenum and the ileum are the two main factors as far as the final absorption of what you've recently eaten. And that's where your nutrients come in. Okay. Then you come all the way down and you come into the bowel. This is your colon, ascending, going up. It's like this. Ascending comes up, transverse is very high up under your rib cage, and then descending down, and then of course your rectum where you pass your feces. There's a problem can arise going into the ileocecal valve that goes into the large colon going up. Well, right in there you have another sphincter, that ileocecal valve, and for some reason a lot of bacteria accumulates there, and that's where you get a lot of parasitic invasion, bacterial invasion. This is your appendix that hangs there. The appendix is very important actually. If you don't have one, double up on probiotics, and I will explain all that also. Because this, if you had a bad case of diarrhea and you still have your appendix, that will force probiotics in there and kill whatever created it. It's actually fantastic. It's also part of the immune system. Now, all this is your immune system, folks, and I don't know how many realize that. But basically, everything that is in here is going to affect your whole system. Your probiotics are so important. As a matter of fact, 90% of your immune system is in your colon. People look at that and say it's ugly. I think it's fantastic because, first of all, we do not feed our bodies properly. Now, for those that like carbohydrates, and I have a couple people I'm trying to help that love carbohydrates. Well, carbohydrates are all right, but when you start overloading, just snacking all day on carbohydrates, you will end up with Crohn's disease. I can't emphasize that enough. Okay, and it's a pretty nasty problem. Practically everything that affects our digestive system is due to improper eating. Now, let's say that you just ate an apple, okay? Now, to eat that apple properly, you should be chewing and chewing and chewing and chewing. And I'm going to say this. If you were my kids, I would insist that you did not swallow until you chewed 25 times. And you're going to say, well, Carrie, I'll be sitting here all day chewing. You would be amazed at the difference in your body if you will just keep that in mind. Okay? No matter what you put in your mouth, chew and chew. And the reason is God gave us teeth. Our stomach, unfortunately, hasn't got any teeth. Now, when you chew, you start to simulate the glands, the salivary glands. and they start to produce saliva. But what's important in the saliva is amylase, and amylase helps to break down carbohydrates and sugars also, okay? Now, with all that going on and chewing, the more you chew, the more area of the food that you're breaking down in your mouth has the amylase enzyme. Enzymes are proteins to help break down food. All right? Now, so we get all this saliva in our mouth and we swallow. Well, saliva also has an antiseptic to it. I don't know if you realize that. It will kill bacteria in your mouth. It will adhere to the food and get the debris off the food. It will kill anything that shouldn't be on it. Not to mention it makes this nice and slippery so that your food can go down. Now, if you chew your food really good, real good, it'll only take 7 seconds for the food to eventually slip through that valve. If you gulp and don't chew your food and it goes down in chunks, and I know I was guilty of that probably as a kid, but now that I'm older, I'm wiser. But anyway, if you do that, it's going to take a full minute. Now the body is yelling and desperately trying, they're mixing up all these things, getting prepared for when it hits the stomach itself. The point is, it cannot digest. You have an upper part of your stomach, okay? If you look on the diagram, the upper part of the stomach, that's where you have what we call pre-digestion takes place. And they're called parietal cells. And your whole stomach is covered with mucus. And why is there so much mucus in there? To protect the stomach. If you are on an aspirin regimen and you have taken anything along those lines, eventually that will tear down the stomach lining and cause peptic ulcers. I hate to say that because I know a lot of you probably need it. The other thing is if you're on we're on a lot of antibiotics. Antibiotics actually crucified your body. They take all the good out and the bad. That's true. And antibiotics way back when was a good thing. It saved a lot of lives. I'm not downing it now. If you go to a doctor and he tells you to take it, by all means do what he tells you to do. I'm just telling you the facts that I know. So all these things start eating your lining of your stomach. And I feel sorry for our bodies. You know, it almost brings tears to my eyes because we have abused it so badly. But keep in mind, our bodies are old. When God first made us, or for those that believe in the Lord, when we were first created, we have never changed, or have we? Not to my knowledge. So our bodies really aren't familiar with all this new food that we have out there. And by the way, when you go into a food store, and it's really a heartache for me, I think, everything in here is nothing but skeletal food. In other words, it has no nutrition whatsoever. So buy the packaged food if you want, take it home, dump it out, and eat the box. There's more there, it's made from water. I mean, that's how I feel about it, and basically, I don't think I'm too far off base. Why is gluten causing all these problems? Well, I'm going to show you what happens. Okay, we come back into our stomach. We have the upper part, that's called pre-digestion. Now we got all this stuff coming down to the stomach, and it's called chyme. And I don't know if I wrote that word on there. I hope I'm pronouncing all these fancy words okay. Yeah, so good. So if you want to make some notes, and I will go back later and so that everybody has a clear understanding. I know I'm probably talking in riddles here. I'm trying not to, but there's so many things that come into being here. So getting back to our tummy. In the stomach you have everything's going to be pre-digested in the upper part of the stomach. And then you have your lower part, and the lower part is actually where the food is going to be chimed, and it looks like a soupy mess. And of course, if you take food enzymes, which help break down the food prior to all this, it will come out in a different way. Claire, can we make up this oatmeal?